Hello, Sacred Heart staff and volunteers. This is a tutorial to help us learn how to swipe customers at the swipe station for services through the new HMIS, which is version 5.0. So I'll talk a little bit about some general things on the new HMIS, but we're going to really focus on swiping so that you're comfortable once we make the switch, which will happen on Monday, April 22nd. We'll make sure that we've spoken to you in person as well before this switch happens, but hopefully this tutorial will help be a good reminder on how to swipe. It's going to feel mostly the same, it just looks different. So this is the login screen for the new 5.0 for HMIS. Your login information is going to be the same. You shouldn't have to come up with new information. The one thing that you will have to do beforehand is fill out a very quick survey that is essentially a renewal of your agreement around confidentiality issues. And we can share that link with you so that you can take care of that before you get going. So we're going to log in here, and I have that we're in a test database right now, so it looks a little bit different, but essentially it'll be fairly similar. Okay, so one of the new changes to HMIS is that there is a homepage dashboard that every user will have. You can customize it yourself to include certain things that might be helpful for you. This is mostly going to be used by staff and volunteers that work more deeply with HMIS. For the purposes of swiping at the swipe station, you really don't have to worry too much about this area of the homepage. The only thing that you may want to check in on a regular basis is right here. We have a section for agency news now, and this is something we did not have before. So if you click on it, there's going to be messages that staff might include here that are specific to our agency. And we're thinking of using this area to include reminders for swiping volunteers, or updates or changes, or different procedural requests. So we're going to see if Welcome Center wants to use this as an area to communicate things to volunteers. And if so, then you're going to want to always take a look at this before you start your shift. Other than that, I wouldn't worry about the rest of this stuff. Like I said, you can play around with it once you get involved, and we can explain more about it, but it's not too important for swiping. As we look at the old system, which I'm going to go back and forth to compare over here, all of the different portions of HMIS are along the top, and we function mostly in ScanPoint. So I think you're used to going to ScanPoint, which we're already in, but everything is on top. In the new version 5.0, everything is over here on the side. So you'll see there's Client Point, which is a place that we often are using, but ScanPoint is where we're going to go today. So we're going to click on that, and now this brings us to the screen where we choose our service. So again, to compare to the old HMIS, that's where we're at right now. So we always, are selecting food or clothing or formula. This is our old screen, and basically it's the same thing. It's not currently in the same order, it's currently in alphabetical order, and we'll see if we can change that in the future, but for now we just have to kind of deal with how it is. So food pantries is going to be what we're going to use today as our example. So it's very similar to the old version. Now as you scroll down in the screen, you're going to find the button that you use to start the scanning process. And again, to compare to the old version, that is right here. So this is what you're typically clicking in order to enter the person's ID. So in the new version, it's just a little bit lower at the bottom, right here. You're going to have a pop-up, and this allows you to enter in the client's ID. And we're going to use a sample ID here today. And you click Scan Barcode, just like in the old version. And you'll see this little window right here. It says Processing. As the computer's thinking, this is how it tells us that it's thinking. So sometimes it's easy to kind of assume that the system's just sitting there not doing anything because you may not see this little window. So always look up on top and look for that processing window, and it tells you that it's trying to figure something out and trying to give you the information you need. So now we are in the screen that has all the information that we're going to use to fill out the ticket. I'm going to go back to the old version to compare. So we have food selected. We click Start Scan. This is what we already know how to do. We're going to enter the same ID so we have consistent information here. Okay, so we are into the screen where we use the information to fill out the ticket. So this screen looks very different from the new screen. We are now in the new screen here. So as we look at our service ticket, which I have up right here, the things we need to access are going to be on the screen. So zip code is right in this middle area here. This is similar to what we have from our old version, which is right here. So I'm going to go back. So we have current zip code, last permanent zip code. That's just like we have now. And if current zip code is filled in, we're using that. If not, we're using last permanent zip code. This is a sample account, so it's not going to be perfect, and we understand that typically these fields are going to be filled in. So the zip code is found in the same area that it was before. CID number, that's right here. It's also up here. Name, that's going to be over here. This is an anonymous account, so the name looks funky, but it's there. So first and second visit is going to be found in this area. I'm going to go back to the old version to show you. Typically, we look for the past visits up in this area. Same thing. The improvement is that this will actually grow up to 5 lines instead of the traditional 3 lines, so we get to see a little bit farther in the past. And then we are circling the service that we're looking for that day. Household information. So we often need to know how many people are in the household, what are the genders, things like that. In the old version, that is found at the bottom. And we can see that this person doesn't have a household connected to them. They're an individual, so we'd circle 1 on our ticket. In the new version, it will be in the same place, but they are still fixing the database for us and customizing it. And this section here is not the right section for our needs. So unfortunately, it's a little early in the timeline for this tutorial, but we want to get this training out as soon as we can. So once we actually start using this, you will see the household makeup in this area, if there is one. And again, for this person, they're an individual, so we don't have that. Diapers and formula. We typically look at the ages of the children for these, and again, it's going to be in that lower household area. The number of men over 13 is also going to be in that lower household area. And then, as we currently do, we still want to swipe for formula. And so, just as before, we would go back and choose formula by clicking on New Session or Exit, and it brings us back to this screen, and we choose formula. So that's just the same as the old version, where when you're done swiping somebody and you need to go to formula, you get out of there, you go back here and you choose formula. So that's basically the standard swiping process. It's fairly similar, it just looks different. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about if a person is actually in a household and not an individual, because there's a few changes. Okay, so if we are going to swipe somebody who is in a household, this is again our starting point. We're going to select food. We're going to scroll down, click Start Scan. And now I'm going to enter a number that I do know is in a household. Another test subject named test tube. So we see our processing here. Now, this window is a new window in the new version. This is a household confirmation window. So previously in HMIS, when we click on a person, it just brings us right to the screen where we fill out the ticket. So 31236. Let's get test tube signed up for food here. And it brings us to the screen. In the new version, this is a step in between. And what it does is it allows us to actually swipe the entire household at once. which in the past you may not realize that you weren't doing it, but you weren't doing it. You were only swiping this person here. And our managing agency, CTA, who takes care of the database, does a different process kind of behind the scenes to get all of the members of the family swiped for food. Now we can do it right away, and it happens all at once by clicking on the whole household right here. So this is an improvement because it's going to give us better data quality. So we see that this is a 2-person household, and we're going to select the whole household so that it selects every member. One other added feature in version 5.0 is right above. It says Households Overview. If you click that arrow, it actually gives you more information on the makeup of this family. So you have Test Tube, who's the person that we entered the number for, and it shows that they are the owner of this household. The term self means the person that came in and applied and got the card. And then we see that example is the son. And without clicking on this arrow here, it doesn't give us any of that information. It's just 2 names. So you're not always going to have to do this, but it's really helpful to know that you can go in to a deeper level and look at this household at this point. You can see the ages. You can also see if they are involved in other households. It kind of shows a history of their previous associations. And again, as a swipe volunteer, you probably won't have to deal with this too much, but it's just good information to know that it's there. So let's get out of this. We've chosen the whole household, and we hit save. And now it's going to bring us to the traditional screen that has all the information for the ticket. It's processing, so we see this window. And if you scroll up, oh, it looks like I can't right now, but it's possible to not see that window. So always make sure that you're looking for this to kind of understand what is going on. So it has finished processing and it's shown us all our information. One thing you'll notice as you look in the past visit field right here is that you see the visit of the client that you swiped, this person right here, but you also see the family member that was attached to him. Because remember, we clicked on the whole household, so it's actually showing the past visits for both members of the household. So just to compare, in the old version, we see the past visits up to 3, but it's only for the card member, the card holder that we swiped. In the new version, this field shows the card member and the other family members. Now, one thing I do want to mention, you can see that both the card owner and the other family member are listed here, and we can see the previous transaction is right here, these 2 slots. Let's assume this family had 7 people. Well, what's going to happen is that all 5 of these spaces will be taken up by that current day's visit because it's showing every single family member, and when you look at the start date, it'll all be today. So on that rare occasion that you have a really large family and you can only see your current day's visit, all you have to do is click next, and that will take you to the previous days so that you can see when they were last in. That's a little bit of a hassle. Down the road, we're going to have improved systems to fix this, but for now, we just kind of have to deal with it. And from here on out, it's the same process. You're filling out the fields in the ticket. In the old version, you have the household makeup at the bottom. So you see there's 1 male, there's 1 child who's 4 years old, and a male. And in the new version, we will see that down here. We just don't see it yet. And that's what I mentioned earlier. Okay, I'm going to show you one more scenario that might happen to you. We're going to go ahead and swipe again. We have food chosen. Scroll down, click Start Scan. And I'm going to enter an ID number that has a unique circumstance. All right, so that households overview box has shown up, but instead of 1 household, we see 2 households. So sometimes this is a mistake, sometimes it's on purpose, but we're not supposed to have people registered to 2 different households. It's our goal at Sacred Heart to clean up the data by having a person who is registered into 2 households visit the Welcome Center desk and we can take a look at why they're entered into two households and try to fix it. So if you were at Swipe and you see two households pop up, you want to not continue with this process and ask them to visit the Welcome Center. You can just say, it looks like your name is registered under two different households. We need to have the staff take a look at it. Can you go visit the desk? And then what you want to do is you're going to cancel, and then you have to click Remove Last Entry. And that will assure that you don't get any of the households swiped for the service that day. And then once you click Remove Last Entry, you're back to your starting point, and you can click on the next person. And I'll just type in another client ID here, and you're back to your regular screen here where you're filling out the ticket. One last thing I wanted to mention, and then I think that is it for this tutorial, is in the old version there is a way to remove an entry if you accidentally swiped for the wrong service or something. And I just wanted to note that that has been moved to the bottom right here, Remove Last Entry. So we just swiped this anonymous person for food, and let's say we accidentally did that. We wanted to swipe them for clothing, but it says food right here. We would go to the bottom, click Remove Last Entry. Yes, we're sure, and it'll bring us back to the screen where we enter the ID. So I believe that's it. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and feel free to approach Welcome Center staff, myself, John O'Keefe with any questions. We're going to go live on April 22nd, and we'll have staff available to help usher you into this new process, but it shouldn't be too painful. And I think that's it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.